allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Convene our meeting at 6:31. Roll call, Don Rollins. Here. John Collins. Here. Misty Cottle.
Here.
Bill Sargent. Here. Anita Lowry.
Here.
Jeff Upton. Here. Mike Nelson. Here. Kira Huntley.
Here.
City Attorney Tom Kiklak, myself, Charlie Rosetti, and our City Clerk, Marshall Huntley. All right, I would like to add one item of information onto the agenda. We'll just do it under old business. Item number 4, a report on the community center remodel. Are there any changes the council would like to make? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Misty, second? Kira, second. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed by like sign. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
I make a motion.
Are there any changes? Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as mailed.
Is there a second?
Awesome.
Any adjustments on that discussion? Okay. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed by like sign. All right, we have a public forum. We allow 2 persons per speaker. All remarks are addressed to the city council. The council and mayor may ask questions of the speaker or respond to questions or comments, but no official action will be taken. Would anybody like to address the council? Okay. Our business reports. Library Hall is having an open house. I think John Riley is probably at that. Pauletta, you have anything for us?
Just to say that we did hire another clerk this month. We hired Vicki Nesplay. She'll be working 16 hours a week until we have her trained. And Connie retires on April 1st. She's joking. April 1st. Vicki will go full-time. That's all I have.
Thanks, Paul. There you go. You moved. Chief Walsh?
I did. If you guys want to go ahead and flip over to our activity report. You'll see that we had 104 calls of service, 16 reports taken, 9 after our call outs, 37 citations, and 26 warrant arrests. The 9 call outs resulted in 14 hours of comp time. Our numbers are down this month, but we've been hammered with the child abuse cases this month from the state. Chris Langston alone has worked 5 himself this month. And it seems like they've just poured in on. Some have been ours, some have not been ours, but it's taken us to look into to see where it needs to go to. This Thursday we have Shop with the Cop. We'll be taking our kids from the school over to that. And so far we've got a total of $2,675 donated to Shop with the Cop. So I want to thank everybody that's contributed to that. That's an awesome amount for those kids to have there. So this month we received a free Stalker handheld radio from the state for participating in Click It or Ticket campaign. We're a recipient of that. Currently working on developing new policies and forms for job performance-based evaluations. It's something that I think needs to be looked into and to be done to evaluate the performance of our officers. So looking into developing some policy and some of that. Also been working with the school on developing a policy and action plan for school shootings. Also, Gil and I presented a presentation to Mr. Carnes on making some recommendations on school shootings. He wants to move forward with that and make that presentation to the school board to try to help them out. So we've been working with that. Also, on the school alarms, I met with Mr. Carnes last week and have made changes to that where they will be responding to those alarms. So that'll cut out our comp time on that. Also, the end of the year's coming up. We conducted an audit of all of our inventory of our equipment. We completed that. We will begin to do an audit of our evidence room and personnel files probably after the first of the year. So we're conducting some of those audits of inventory. Also, we recently swore in and hired Damon Byram as a part-time officer. So he'll come on with us part-time at the police department.
Does that be right, RUM?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And that's about it. Any questions?
Yes, how many kids are you going to actually be taking on the shoplift spot day?
We got 14.
14 that you are helping with that?
Did you talk to, has John talked to you yet about Dollar General?
Yes. Yes, Dollar General is also doing a toy drive, and they are donating also. So, yeah, we've already got 2 or 3 bags full of toys that we're going to end up distributing throughout the community and the schools too. So. Anything else? All right, thank you.
Chief, thank you.
Thank you.
James Scanlon, Public Works.
I don't really have a lot specifically on the Public Works Department. I know there's several things in the agenda as we come to, I'll have input on some of the updates on some of the projects that are going on. We're getting through our vacation season for the guys. We've been working on a skeleton crew the last couple of weeks, but we can actually have everybody here today, and they're all going to be gone next week. But we're going to get all our vacation out for the guys. I know they appreciate it. A couple of pieces of equipment that we've recently acquired, Utiliguard, which is an underground locator. They were working with kind of an antiquated system. Won't go into dowsing logs, but now we have a real nice underground detection system for identifying lines, helping us map where our lines are. And in the water committee meeting, we met and had some pretty interesting discussions about the electronic reads, cellular meters for our water system. And we're going to be looking at some possible pilot projects on that in the near future to help us track them water.
Questions?
How about the sewer, John? Tell us what's happening, where we're at.
Okay, so McClellan Engineering came down, gave an update on the sewer. I have a copy of kind of timeline that we're adhering to. With the heritage digs being completed, that was kind of the holdup. And, we had the rainy season where we couldn't get the backhoe in the fields and things along those lines. So that's all been completed. We've had a promise from the organization that did the heritage digs that they're going to have their report submitted by the end of the year. And once that report gets submitted, then we'll be able to roll forward with EICs. And there's no changes in the route. The route's been identified. There was nothing identified during the heritage digs that's going to require us to relocate the line. There just may be an opportunity to bore in one location that we're aware of right now. So it's back on a sensible timeline as it is right now with the heritage digs being the main holdup. But going to the SHPO office on Monday to get their approval with McClellan Engineering, driving down there on Monday morning, and I can certainly provide you a copy of the contract is as it states.
Do we know, because we've got other things to consider money-wise, but about what it might cost us besides what we're going to receive from grants and all that sort of thing?
I think some of that's still up in the air. We did get a real good idea of what the fees are going to be from the city of Fayetteville.
Tim Nyander came down and met with us and explained that they base their rates off of what the current Elkins rates are. So we do at least have some numbers to work with now. There may possibly be some adjustments in rates in order to make the improvements. I don't have a dollar amount in my mind as far as what it's going to cost.
We don't have any, I know no one knows everything yet, but like, could this thing cost us $1 million or $2 million after all the grants and everything has come in, or more or less? Or
Mayor,
does anybody have any idea?
I don't know if we have an amount.
Well, we don't have an amount. We know that we have, we know that we're over 5 million probably on the whole project. Looking at that, and we've kind of had that number for a long time. We do know that right now we have about 1.2 million in what they call forgivable loans, which is basically the same thing as a grant. So at the end of that money, they just say, okay, great, you got all that done, so we forgive the amount. We did meet with for the ANRC on that, and there is going to be, he believes there is going to be some additional funding that is the same as that in forgivable loans, but he won't give out any figures, and there's nowhere we can go to find those. So, of course, he's got 500 other towns in the state that asking for the same kind of things. So.
But also in our meetings with him from the city of Fayetteville, there is some efforts on their part to replace a line coming down south. So we're going to kind of join in with them on that section of the line and share the cost on that. So we are looking at other opportunities to reduce our out-of-pocket expense. So they already have plans in place to enlarge this line coming south, and since we're going to be going north, we're going to share the cost on that. So there's some other opportunities.
I'm just trying to get an idea in my mind, and give or take, we could have to come up with a couple $1 million or somewhere in that, out of the $5 million. I know that, but we'll have to have some consideration of loans to make that. That's what I'm talking about. We're going to have about $2 million, give or take, that we're going to have to find money for the loans.
And that's sort of been, I won't say promised, but it's definitely been indicated that ANRC will make that available.
Yes.
I don't want to misspeak, but
Right.
and then that would be paid back based upon the rates, chief. They would only loan us that money if they knew that we could have a rate structure that was sufficient to pay for that. And y'all have started raising rates in anticipation of that already.
I just wanted to get an idea of where we might, because we're going to pay that money somewhere, either through rates or through
Yes,
a
sir.
bond or something.
Yes, sir.
And that's something that okay, that's it. I just
Yeah,
got
I mean, as we firm up those numbers, we'll certainly give awareness talk to everybody. Make sure we find out the numbers, deal with the numbers.
You got any idea where this 30% back up the water loss is from?
I don't
Still chasing it?
I don't have a good answer. I mean, we're looking at, for one thing, reconciling against our meter reads. The Fuji meter that we had in place didn't give a real clear indication of what the balance was between the side of the system we were monitoring. So we're actually moving that to the pump station to make sure we know a good calibration on it. It was a surprise for it to go back up to 30%. But we're certainly looking at how do we upgrade our system so that we have a better set of data points to monitor. And that's part of what the initiative on the cellular reads on the meters. We've talked to other districts in the area, Bull Shows, Mulberry, and Hurst Creek out of Texas that are in the process of installing this system. The presentation during the water committee meeting said that they have an average of 50% reduction in water loss on the installation of these meters. So we're looking at antiquated meters. I mean, we ran a report of all the meters that we know install dates on, and we had 20 that were pre-1980. We had some in 1960. So these meters that historically we haven't replaced because of our 1 million gallon rule have been out there on the ground for 40, 50 years. and to assume that they're reading accurately. That's where a lot of people have been pointing as, there's your water loss. You got meters that aren't accurately reading what the water flow is, so.
So it may or may not actually be a loss as far as actual water.
It's accountability of the what is known, yes, it's the unknown loss.
It may not be water loss, but it's revenue.
Yeah, it's still revenue loss.
It's still revenue loss, yeah.
Thank you, James. Chad, your turn.
My turn.
How are you guys? Good. Good. Our Parks Committee wasn't able to meet in November, so I didn't have any minutes to include in your packet this month. And we also haven't filled our open position for the committee. We did receive applications, and we received 5, I think, really good applicants. So we have a meeting scheduled this Thursday, and we're reviewing those applicants. And so hopefully by next month's meeting, we'll have a recommendation brought to the council for a new member. As always, we're preparing for the next fall season. Believe it or not, it's coming up fast. We're going to start doing signups beginning next month, January 1st. And we're always working and doing maintenance on the fields, and always in preparation for the next season. And I'm thankful for this kind of December weather to get out and do that also. With thanks to James and some funds from the streets department, we've also been able to stripe Riverside Park's parking lot. I don't know if y'all noticed, we have striped it, and we've also gotten new concrete barriers for each perimeter parking spaces instead of those old railroad ties that are rotting and don't look very good and also get washed away. So we have got those replaced. It looks really good down there. Proud of that. We're also been looking at projects for the north part of Carter that we got our new bridges installed and opened up to the public. They're welcome to go down there and walk. Like I told you all last month, we still don't have any designated trails, but there's a lot of open area space down there to walk. But we've had some meetings, and we've got some more meetings scheduled to check into some possibilities. We want to keep that natural, but we also want to make it a multi-use area where we're looking at possibly a intermediate to beginner to intermediate bike trail to go in there, along with maybe a frisbee golf course, and obviously walking trails and things, and maybe some native areas. But we're looking at. I'm really excited about that. I think that's maybe a long work in process, but I think there's a lot of opportunity down there to really make something nice for our community and town. We're really excited about that. And last but definitely not least, Megan has turned in her resignation to the Parks Department. It's going to be effective at the end of the month. She's done a great job in the year and a half or so that she's been here as an intern and as an employee. She's done a great job and helped me out a lot and brought a lot of good things that got some projects started that we hope to continue. As far as replacing her, I haven't posted that job or anything. I intend to do that, post and advertise it in the next couple of weeks, and I don't really have a timeline on when I want to have someone hired, but definitely well before our baseball and softball season kicks off. I'll definitely need that. But hopefully we'll get some good applicants to choose from, and it'll be able to continue some of the successful things that we've got going on. So, and that's about all I've got. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
Chief McCorkle, anything from the fire department?
Okay, we had our Christmas dinner last night and had a really good meal. I thought a real good program. One thing I was impressed with is that and made up certificates with everybody's number of years on it, and I was impressed. I didn't realize that we had that many people that had that many years. And then toward the end of it, they had, I don't know, there was 6 or 8 recruits that had a bunch of fire training, but they had them to get up and put the Santa Claus caps on and sing jingle bells, and they hadn't had any training in that for sure. But anyway, it was fun, and I think everybody had a good time. Had a good meal.
That was impressive, the number of years that some of our volunteer firemen have contributed to.
Do what now?
The number of years that many of our volunteer firemen have contributed to the fire department.
I didn't realize myself
Yeah.
that, and they wouldn't put mine on there. They said, they wrote on it instead of the years, they said over 50.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, thank you, Chief. Christie, anything from finance?
I don't have anything additional to what's in the packets. If there's any questions, I'll
Okay.
answer those.
Council, anything off of what you saw the finance report?
I don't have anything, but I'd like to ask Christie a question if I could.
Sure.
To get clearance. I know more or less how contingencies work, but we have to by law, or they recommend that we have a contingency based on our income. Is that correct?
I don't believe there's a law that says that we have to have it. The recommendation from the auditor is that we have at least 6 months operating.
Okay, so it would be half of whatever, the projected income,
Right.
five,
So
whatever.
for us right now, about 600,000.
Okay, and was it, and so that's, I understand that goes into the contingency, and we use that sometimes throughout the year. Now, the monies that we had in, let's say 2015, and I don't know how much contingency we have, I don't know where to find that, but do we have any of that left right now?
Yes, and you're kind of talking about two different things. The budget that we approved for 2015, we are actually about $132,000 under budget this year for the city as a whole, street department, park, and general fund. So budget-wise, we're doing really good now. And basically, all that means is that money at the end of the year would then roll into our reserves, and it's in our reserves right now.
Okay.
So that's just adding to our bottom line of what we actually have in the bank. We have
What's kind
about
of,
$1.2 million in the bank total
right now?
for the whole city, which is about a year's worth of operating.
And that's from, but that's not counting what you're gonna put back as you get the money in 2016?
Correct.
See, that's what I've been kind of confused, is monies that aren't used, and obviously there was some,
Right.
that would just go into contingency. So now you're saying we have about $1.2 million, and if things were to go right, we'd have another 600,000 to add to that through this next year?
No.
No, that includes this next year.
Well, that's where we are currently.
Yes.
And then next year, would just depend on, I mean, we have, in our budget that we approved for next year already, we approved spending 17,000 out of our reserves to make our budget.
Right.
So assuming that we get in and spend exactly what we've projected, we would be $17,000 less at the end of next year than we are at the end of this year,
So we really wouldn't,
in that $1.2 million.
because we wouldn't have a contingency? That's what's confusing. When you guys made your budget, I know that you had 17,000 that we said we would authorize to use to balance the budget.
Right.
But you project how much contingency in 2016 if we get what we think we'll get. See what I'm saying? How much you think we would get.
We're not projecting an over a I'm trying to think of how to explain. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You can,
So-
it's right on the tip of your tongue, I can tell.
So Chief, some cities are always working on building it to that 6 months or
Right.
whatever they choose. You've already built it. So you've built that nest egg and it stays there. And I doubt you would spend that nest egg below the $600,000 without very serious discussion. In fact, your nest egg is double what the auditor recommends, what anybody recommends. You've got a year's worth of operating, which that doesn't happen very often. So you've got that nest egg built. You don't have to build it anymore in your budget, and you didn't budget to build on it. You budgeted to spend all the money you're gonna take in, and in fact, you're gonna dip into that nest egg
Okay.
about 17,000,
So we really aren't
which will still keep
planning
it.
on any contingency for next year. We've just,
You're not, you
we've
have
done
a
well in the
contingency.
past years, and we've got $1.2 million to work.
Right, your contingency already exists.
Okay, that's
You don't
what I
have to build it anymore.
That's
Yeah.
what I was
Yeah,
trying
and
to
so,
find
so
out.
this, for 2015, when we did our budget in 2015, we, the way we budgeted, we were hoping to be, I think it was like 20,000, give or take a little bit, to the good at the end of the year, is what we budgeted for. Well, we're now looking like we're gonna be more like 100,000 to the good at the end of the year. We're 132 this month, but we're gonna spend some big dollars this month, trying to just spend up some budgets. So we're gonna be way ahead of what we had planned for this year. So if everything comes in as projected, which it never happens,
Right.
but if everything comes in as projected next year, we would actually be $17,000 short of, at the end of next year from where we are this year.
Because that was, I understand it all, you guys all understand what we're talking, because before, I knew we always had monies left over, but we don't see that money, or I don't know where to look for it. It's-
Right.
And
The
we don't
numbers
know
look
about
at- Now, one thing you can look at in the report that you get that will, it helps, it gives you an indication. See if I can find my report in here. On the treasurer's report,
Mhm.
you have, the very first column is the bank balances. And you can see, as of January this year, we had 990,000. As of November, the end of November, we had 1.1 million. So this 140,000 in the bottom right-hand corner is what we've increased this year. So you can kind of look at that column, and it kind of gives you an idea of, are we doing well, are we, spending more than we're bringing in? Does that help?
Yeah, I just thought it was important to get this
Absolutely.
out, because we've got things to consider tonight that I doubt anybody knew that, $1 million about what we had, more or less. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Thank you, Kristen.
Sure.
All right, old business, sales tax, we've kind of been quiet on this for a while. We've talked about this some, there's been little information out in the community. But we have had some conversations with two representatives from Stevens Inc. And they are a law firm that does work with loans and bonds. And they have put some numbers together for us. So this will kind of give us an idea of where we stand with an additional 1 cent sales tax, what kind of money it will bring in, and what we can possibly borrow against that for indebtedness. So if we're looking at construction projects, we're looking at like the library addition, rehabilitation to this building, some remodeling on the community center, those would be indebtedness that we would pay for with a bond. And we have to secure that bond with money that's coming into the city that they know will continue coming into the city for the term of that bond. So I did, and I'm sorry this wasn't in your packet, but we just met with these gentlemen today, so I did put a sheet on your tables to give you some of those numbers. But I think one thing to look at is the top number up there, 1 cent, 12-month collection history ending November 2015. So the information from the state basically has told us that in a month's time, we bring in about $214,000 with 1 cent of sales tax. So that's what that top figure is. And then we're looking at, for example, if we're looking at a debt service, if we're looking at about a half of that cent, we have talked about a 1/4 cent going to fire, 1/4 cent going to police, and trying to boosting their budgets, and we talked about some of the equipment that's needed, and we're going to have, we have detailed information on that, and for the first of the year, we'll continue to put that information out. But looking at that 1/2 cent then is kind of encumbered with going into those two budgets. So we really have about a 1/2 cent left to look at major projects that we would have in the city for construction and repairs. And that amount would bring in about 107,186 for a year. That's the amount for a 1/2 cent would bring in. If that whole 1/2 cent were allowed to be used for indebtedness, we could borrow up to the very bottom number that's on that sheet, $1,545,000. And so that 1/2 cent would support us to go into indebtedness that much. I don't think we want to do that, but those are the top figures that we would have to look at. So and that we couldn't go beyond. So consideration there, for example, is if we're looking at trying to do library addition, if we have 4 projects: library addition, community center, city hall, and an additional bay on the fire department, because I think we are looking at another truck on the, maybe a tanker truck. So if we had those 4, you know, what could we cover 4 projects, 4 major projects at one time? And we don't have all the figures on what those construction costs might be, but we could probably do all of the major construction projects that we need to with one bond indebtedness if we want to go that route. And so that would encumber at least part of that 1/2 cent for a number of years to pay off that indebtedness. And that would bring all of our facilities kind of up to good repair, and where we wouldn't have deterioration like we have on this building. Community center would be a nicer place. Addition to the public library, and addition to the fire department on bay. So I just wanted this information out to the council so that you know how much money that would really generate over the long term, how much that sales tax would support for both addition to fire and police and indebtedness. And I think we need to basically really have some good discussions on the 1/2 cent for indebtedness, because I don't think it's a good idea for us to encumber all of that. We want to add some of that sales tax to our yearly budget, because we have a lot of needs other than just major construction projects. You know, right now we don't have anything as far as replacement of vehicles. We don't have anything as far as replacement of technology. There are some, general maintenance things that we don't do on a regular schedule for our facilities and for our equipment that we need to look at. So part of that money would need to go. So that indebtedness of that bottom line, $1.5 million, we would have to come back off of that and allow some freedom there for additional money to go into our budgets. Over the next few years, we probably are going to have to add some personnel. The police department is looking at an additional officer for full-time. We may need an additional part-time help over the year in different departments. So, and right now we don't really have a budget that covers that. We just got through looking at that. We ran pretty tight this year on the 2016 budget. So there's not much left over there to take care of those kinds of items. So this is kind of our beginning point. We know now what monies that we're going to have available if a 1 cent sales tax would be passed. So now we're going to start on the nuts and bolts of it and see how to divide that up. And I know you got this on the short term, but I want you to have this tonight since we've got it. So come early January, we'll have a lot more discussion on what we need, and we'll probably need to have trouble on that as well. Just with this, do you have any questions on sales tax? We probably are still looking at a special election. They seem to go better at that. We're probably looking after March for that election to be held. And all of this work that Stevens is doing for us, they're doing this for us in kind for right now. There's no cost to what they're doing for us. They've also kind of given us a timeline of how that sales tax, what we would need to do as far as the agencies around the state and for advertising for that, and what to do with the election board. So they've laid all that out for us. And so at some point in time, if we do this and it passes, then they will receive fees for the work that they've done and for, they're part of this operation. Tom, you have anything to add to that?
I think that's great. Exactly.
All right, move on. Nothing right now?
We don't have an estimate of what their fees are. I mean, are they saying so much per hour?
You see that 2.75% there? That's cost of issuance. That has in it bond counsel fees, their fees, origination fees, all those other sort of bank type of fees. I mean, really, Stevens is a big bank, is what they are. So all those fees have to do with borrowing money, period, and then plus their fees. So it's all pretty much included in that. And I can't tell you exactly the amount that they would get as bankers, and really special bankers, the bond issuance. Of that 2.75%, it's pretty much all contained in that.
It's kind of like if you buy a house and you have all those fees that come along with the house. Very similar to that. It's a loan. All right. Anyone else? All right, our recycle center, I think we reported last month we got the money, we got approved for that grant, and we now have a concrete floor in the building, and it's flat and level and a nice place to work, a nicer place to work. We're off the dirt and gravel. We kind of had planned for the rest of the apron and approach to be poured prior to today, but Monday, James, for those. Okay, so that'll finish that up. We have electricity in the building, and that part is done. So we've just about spent out our $10,000 grant for the recycle center. Then we do have, and you probably noticed, there's a small trailer out on the railroad right away out here in front. And so the Boston Mountain has brought that down for us to use throughout the holidays in December. And that will just make it an easy place for people to come and bring their cardboard and stuff from Christmas gifts and from mailings and all of that. Because you guys know we're open one day a week for the recycle center, and this will be just an easy job for people. We brought it up here. Hopefully we won't get any trash bags in it. And we have signs on it that say don't dump your trash in here. So. But then, of course, that'll go back to Boston Mountain for recycling. And then at the end of the season, they'll pick that back up and retrieve it. There's also a barrel out there for throwaway lights, electrical lights, so things that are worn out. And if you're tired of changing bulbs, you can drop those in that barrel out there, and they'll be recycled as well. Good service for our community, and it's easy access any day of the week for our community for this month. All right, our community center, we added that to old business. We had a great committee for that. Eula Lichty, Lynn Smith, Bobby Hennington, Paula Cottle, Kay Rossetti. They've been working on this for a while. I have a favorite in that group, but we have, they have made all the decisions on what's going to be remodeled in the kitchen. We have all that ordered. James has made arrangements with Home Depot. We finally went with them. So we're getting stainless steel appliances, gas stove, new refrigerator, dishwasher,
Warming oven?
warming oven, and microwave.
No.
No.
We're using the old microwave.
We're using the old microwave.
It's a new old microwave.
It's a new old microwave. New granite countertops,
Fixtures on the sinks,
new fixtures on the sinks,
refinishing the cabinets, new hardware on the cabinets, granite countertops all the way around, including the island, and wood laminate flooring. And it'll be the entryway and the kitchen area. And partridge in a pear tree.
Yeah. So the money you approved a couple months ago, it's spent.
Yeah.
All right. We decided not to do anything this month because the community center is rented a lot. There's a lot of activities going on in December. We don't want to take a chance of having construction, not getting it done and having that in the way of everybody. So we're going to wait till January to install all of this stuff. All right, new business. I have on here a request to approve the purchase of a new police vehicle. I'm requesting the purchase be out of the reserves in the 2016 budget, and we're looking at about $32,000. Chief Watts took that item out of his budget for next year. One of the main reasons is, you know, the negotiations were coming down. People were really kind of down to what they really needed for next year. That would have cut into some of the other departments to give up even more things. But after the approval of that, I went in and talked to Chief and asked him just how important, you know, that might be. Their Impala is, you know, kind of on its last leg. There are times when they even have to jump it because it won't start. There's a drain on the battery. It's not really a vehicle that they've been able to count on and trust for quite a while. So it's a replacement. This is really going to be a replacement that will go into service immediately for one of the officers. And the reason I'm asking for it out of the 2016 budget is the timeline is such that we just couldn't get it ordered and paid for in 2015. So it has to go over into 2016. It'll come out of reserves. And, you know, throughout the year, we will probably revisit reserves occasionally like we have this year. It's just, you know, we're kind of at that level with our budget, so it's not really an unusual request, but it kind of is at the beginning of the year. So I would entertain a motion to approve this.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Good. Second by Kier. All right, discussion.
Is that amount gonna cover lights and everything?
It's a complete,
Ready to go, throw somebody in it and they're running?
Right. It's the, John and I talked about before, it's the Dodge 4x4 that they had, the Dodge pickup truck. And you can get those cheaper than you can the SUVs and even the sedans with the V8 Hemi. And, you know, the mayor and I talked about, you got the truck to carry evidence around, you also have the truck to carry water and goods around in the event of emergency and stuff like that. The base price for that is $21. With the few upgrades, it'll be, the base price will be around $23. Lights, cages, radios, that sort of stuff will put us right at $32. And that's the total price.
anyone else? Right. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed by like sign? Okay, thank you. Okay, update on security for City Hall, building and employees. We've kind of busy on that, getting things arranged and everything.
We
James,
have,
you want to talk about some of that?
Certainly. So we had 3 initiatives that we decided upon to increase the safety level of the city hall and the employees, and also other city buildings around the area. The 911 phone app that we spoke of in the last meeting, it's in the final stages of programming. It should be, they're waiting on one final update. They didn't want to initiate it for us until after the update, but they're saying mid-December, so it could be any time. The other initiative was a camera system. We wanted to have a DVR, 1-week loop camera. Worked with those in previous positions, and we did purchase one to be installed. It's in the hands of the police department right now. We have a very apt employee in the police department that has that skill set to install those, but it's purchased. It was a fairly economical system. The other is some security on the flow through the hallways, specifically during the day, not knowing which door was open or which. We had three entrances into the city hall, and it's kind of hard to manage who was going where. So we purchased a locking system. The hardware was installed today. We're waiting on a power supply, but it should be initiated very soon, and it'll involve key fobs to access a secure door for employees, and then a second door will be installed with the same entry system to secure one side of the building, so that we still have public access to come in through our main entrances. We still serve the public, and it still has an open access, but there will be areas that they won't be able to wander through the halls, show up in the chief of police's office unannounced and things along those lines. So those were the three initiatives that we settled upon, and hopefully by the end of the year, all those will be up and running.
As we planned this, we wanted to make things absolutely convenient for our patrons and not to put anything up that seemed like barriers, and I think we've managed to do that, but also in that process, to have some security for our employees so that their safety was an issue, worst case scenario, come through the door. So I think we're accomplishing that. So, thanks, Kelso, for allowing us to do that.
We have a new one that they put in at the federal level, that you have 2 keys on your keyboard and you hit them at the same time. It's a panic, and it sends the police straight to the location. And we've already, the first week was there, it got used and it worked. They don't know you've called the police. They don't know that they're coming. But it's the 2 keys.
All right. Any questions on that? All right, item 3, Woolsey Bridge. Discussion on where we are, some of the costs we have found out, discussions we've had with funding sources. James, you just want to start us out with that?
Okay. So we did somewhat of a summary of what we found so far in the process. It's a huge project, and there's numerous service providers that would come into play on this type of a project. So I tried to tally some of what the anticipated costs were and what the anticipated incomes or opportunities that we had to try to build our skin in the game, so to speak. We're working with a foundation in the area that they certainly want to help us. We feel like they do. We've had positive meetings. We have more meetings to follow with them, but they certainly want to see what our investment is and what we're willing to do and what we're ready to bring to the table. So just to run through some of the things, we know that we have a $90,000 award from the highway department. And let me restate that. Right now we have a memorandum of agreement that was sent to us by the state. The mayor has it, and that's our. I think that has a date on it that at this point we're bought into this process, and it doesn't really. it doesn't say that you can't back out at any time. But we want to make sure that we have proper community support, proper funding. We want to make sure we have everything so that it is a positive project for the whole community. So, but in this process, we wanted to see what opportunities we had, what revenues we had, and that's kind of what I put on this piece of paper. Now there are some unknowns in here too. There's, you know, I had a visit from the highway department today on the condition of the bridge based on the last assessment. And there's a lot of things in there that we would want to get evaluated by an engineer. So a lot of it's unknown. We have a couple of other organizations working on different aspects of the move, which they have proposed a different route on how to get it to the railroad. So this is as much information that we had at the time when we put it down on the paper, but there's more information coming, and we'll share that as soon as we have better handle on the project. So you just go down through here, potential funding for the project. Highway Department has agreed to award us $90,000. That was their anticipated cost for demolition of the bridge. We feel like that's pretty set. That is, if we do accept the ownership of the bridge, that will be a certain donation to the city for that process. Came up with the idea of a 500 club. We estimated there'd be 500 planks of wood to cross the bridge, and in the community support initiative, we would, you know, auction those off for $100 per plank. People would be able to get their name embossed on the plank so that it would be a part of the bridge going forward. Kind of a neat idea, but we found a local vendor that has agreed to do all the woodwork, cutting the planks, you know, running the sawmill, kiln, drying them, and making them available for the bridge project. So that's quite a savings initiative for us. But if we sell those, each one of those at $100 gift, potentially generate $50,000 in revenue on that. There's a historical preservation program through the state of Arkansas that the grant ranges from a minimum of $10,000 up to $60,000 for this type of project. So once we have agreed to accept the bridge, we go through the application process, and through that organization, there's potential for $10,000 to $60,000 from that. Made contact with another organization today, the American Historical Society, or Arkansas Historical Society, that they have programs to help communication efforts around historical events. So if we were to gain the bridge and we wanted to set up a museum or, you know, site like a community informative, and we talked about the water treatment, the clean water treatment plant there on 170. Do like a park headquarters with some type of museum, you know, something that, you know, people come and learn about the bridge and learn about the community. So they are very invested in that type of funding. So I didn't put that on here. We're meeting with the Walton Foundation again next week. It's been very positive meetings. They're very interested in it. It ties into the Razorback Greenway. And these are, you know, we had quite a meeting with another group about the north side of Carter Park, more bike-related, community-related funding that is also kind of tied to the foundation as well. So the more you can show community utilization, programs for community, not just West Worth, but Greenland and other areas, that's more important to the foundation work. So we're working on that as well. One thing that we were trying to determine was, you know, if it came down to the city having to invest money in this project, what funds would we have available? In the streets and sidewalks reserve, if you take out 1 year's of operational costs for that department, we do have in excess of $150,000. It's not that we want to say this is what we're bringing to the table, but it's something that we can fall back on if we don't gain the funds on these other items. So it's just something I wanted to share with you guys to consider maybe at a later date. That brings us to about $350,000, which would be basically a third of what the anticipated cost of the whole project would be. If you go down into some of the cost estimates on the actual bridge movement construction, we have a crane service out of Fort Smith that's bid the crane work, the picking of the bridge at $410,000. McKnight Recovery, which is a local vendor of service, it's a community. It's very important for us to try to involve our local vendors. So all the movement of the bridge on the land is something that Tom McKnight's been working with us on. He estimated his cost at $78,000 there. And that first that kind of jumps out as a really exuberant amount, but whenever you take into consideration the number of men, the trucks, the days involved in moving a structure like that, it does break down pretty reasonable cost. Bridge movement on the rails, we've had conversations with Arkansas Missouri Railroad. They have estimated use of the rail at 6,000 per day, providing flat cars, providing engines, providing engineers to move that on the bridge, and it's about 3.5 miles. We anticipate about 2 days rail time, so and that's working with the crane companies. So that's about 12,000. A&B Accessories, another local vendor, has estimated if we choose to go with a composite decking on the bridge, their bid on that was $168,000. It's a 50-year guarantee material, so that's another option as far as the walking surface on the bridge. Estimated construction costs coming from McClellan Engineering, they estimate the project to be about $506,000, and that's the placement of the bridge, erection of the piers, and everything as far as the engineering costs. So we're looking at, if you take those two amounts, we're looking at, I believe it's 1.2, somewhere in that area is what we're looking at. And like I said, it doesn't take into consideration the ramps to the bridge on the park side. We're hoping to use abutments on the east side. But a lot of this is speculation as well. We're working very hard with these companies, another company out of Fort Smith working on the crane service bid. As we get closer to go time, and we anticipate the highway department letting the bid for the construction of the new bridge in March of next year. So along that timeline, we're going to have our ducks in a row for the project.
The representatives from the Walton Family Foundation, the two gentlemen that we're meeting with next week, one is soft trails director and the other is hard surface director, so that kind of covers both bike and pedestrian. And they contacted us through a third person to make the first meeting that we had, which was, it's hard to get a meeting with the Walton Family Foundation for funding with the trails. It just doesn't happen. You can make all kinds of requests, but they won't meet unless they're interested. And they requested this second meeting, so that tells us that they are looking strongly at funding a lot of a project like this. They're very interested in it. We're the end of the Razorback Trails. This can be certainly a point of interest. All of the groups, the bicycle groups and the Walton family people think that, well, one thing they told us is throughout these projects, one of the things that's happened with communities, it has been an economic development for them. A lot of this traffic coming in will spend money in town, and it is an opportunity also for some small businesses to go in along or near those routes. So it could be a boost in our economy as well. And of course, that would increase our tax base. we have done a lot of work on this, but I just want to reiterate, you know, even if we sign the memorandum of agreement, we can back off of this at any time. And I think at some point after the first year, they're going to ask me to sign that agreement. I have it on my desk, but it's not a commitment. It's not a financial commitment at all. And in fact, either party can back out of this. The highway department can say at some time, no, we've changed our mind. We're not going to let you have it. So there's nothing going to happen without us actually getting down to where we start spending money. And so, you know, the city financially is safe in that respect. We're not going to put the city in debt with any debt whatsoever, unless we have this approved. I'm looking at doing a public forum mid-January, not only to discuss this, but to look at other items. One of the discussions will be the public library edition, and then really anything else. You know, I know that we have an aging population in West Fork. We need work from the community center to accommodate more things that are going on for that group of people. So, you know, that'll be part of it. And, you know, we're going to make this very public. By that time, we should have some really good figures that we know we can present to our public. Along this way, you know, we've had some opportunities to give out some numbers, but those numbers kind of change. You know, the Crane number, for example, looked pretty high. It looks like we may have something less than that coming in as well. So, you know, we have to be careful about putting out a lot of information when we're in the process of looking at a project, especially a project this large. It is kind of scary. I mean, $1.2 million for an old bridge.
What's been interesting is, as we've brought other people into the discussion, asking us, seeking the services, they bring completely different ideas to the table, and they're able to, you know, rather than moving the bridge on flatbed cars, they're talking about basically turning the bridge into a trailer itself, you know, so building axles that will amount to the buckles on the side of the bridge to actually draw the bridge on axles. Companies that have worked with huge pieces of equipment, movement on the rail, you know, what their working relationship is with the Arkansas Missouri Railroad, and how they have, you know, rail yards in Portsmouth that they do alterations to truck cars all the time to accommodate these types of things. So as we bring other people into the discussion, it's a very fluid process, you know, trying to figure out what the best method is. New concepts every day. Today, completely different approach to the rail, and that's why it's real hard to say this is what our cost is going to be, because we're learning other methods that other people have. You know, if you pull up the Virginia Department of Transportation, they have a best practices manual on moving metal truss bridges. They've done it. They show pictures of where to support it and how to pick it up. So it's a really amazing learning process. But one thing that has been most interesting is the meetings that we've held with the representatives from the foundation. Whenever they first came down here, they were like, my gosh, I had no idea this is what you guys were looking at. And we had no idea that this is what West Fork has to offer. They didn't even know what Riverside Park was. So it's really encouraging for them to come down and see what opportunities we have. And they're like, gosh, we want to help you with this, because this is going to be a great addition to your community, and this is going to make you a destination on the Razorback anyway. So I think that's what's driving their interest and what's bringing them back for their third meeting, is their genuine interest in helping us on the So it's very interesting program.
We don't have any inkling of what, like, percentage that they would be willing to do, or anything at all right now?
Well, they started out talking about matching funds, and that was early in the first conversation we had. But they came back to us and wanted to meet again, and they sent us several questions for us to look at and answer. So this second meeting, hopefully, we will get that information, where they are financially. With the Walton Family Foundation, money's not an issue. What really becomes into play is, you know, how do they judge this as something that they want to fund in large amounts, or they want us to buy in? So and it seems like every time they come down, they ask to come back and look at further things. So they're finding a lot of features of interest. You know, Carter Park with the little, we've spent, we bought 2 bridges out of surplus, spent some time on the backhoe with a brush hog, and have got some paths down there, and they were impressed that we have soft bicycle paths now in that area. In fact, they're going to bring some bicycle people in, maybe do some advance through the school and try to tie some things together with Greenland. And that's just an aside to this. It's not really part of this whole process, but
The organizations that are looking at those soft surface trails also work very closely with Walton Foundation and other communities where they've built boat tracks and, I mean, all biking parks and things that this is the company that works with them, and they're coming down to look at us with what we have to offer. So it's really encouraging.
You know, we would like to, you know, I think we would like to get this done. We certainly, you know, we want a strong, hopefully we'll get strong remarks from the community as to where they stand on this. We're not going into this trying to have any financial burden on the city or take away from the needs that we have. Let me just talk for one moment about where we are as far as streets and sidewalks within our community. We have some real needs in our community for those. There's places in town that don't have sidewalks. We have some streets that need repair. Within a year's time so far, we've been able to get right at $450,000 in grants. We've got 2 sidewalks we just got approved for. One of those is going to finish the sidewalks on McKnight Street. That's a safe route to schools. And if you're down that street, and, you know, a lot of kids and grown-ups are on the street walking down there. So that's going to move them over. That part of the sidewalk will be ADA compliant. Some of the rest sort of is, but we're always going towards that. The other grant that we got approved is from Campbell to Main Street on White. That's a $175,000 project. And that's ADA compliant, 6-foot wide sidewalk and rails. Safe passage across the railroad tracks, and we don't have any of those in place now at all. If you go across the railroad tracks, you've got a high step across it. So that will be at least the first place that we have that accessibility on White Street. That in itself is a major tie from the $35,000 grant that we got at Riverside Park for that extension on the park, coming up to Main Street and across Main to White and up to Camp. From there, we have all access for safe routes to schools. All the rest is so from the river, from 170 at the river, all the way to schools, at that point will be safe routes for our kids, as well as library, post office, community center, the bank. So it's including businesses and establishments throughout. Then, and I'm not sure on the date on this, I think we're probably looking at about June. We've got a $250,000 grant from the Highway Department that is going to do close to 2 miles of 2-inch overlay paving on 4 areas in West Fork on our streets. And they will do whatever repairs are necessary. The $250,000 grant usually will do 2.5 miles if they just do the overlay. But they will come in and make sure that any repairs are done. They have evaluated those areas. We're trying to get an area in each ward so we want all your representatives. So, down McKnight Street, up on Skyview, in West Fork Acres. I've lost the other one. Anyway. So they'll do what repairs are necessary so they have a good base. And then we'll probably end up with about 2 miles of 2-inch overlay. And that's, I mean, that's excellent street. That is. And all of these, this $450,000 grant, our investment in that is going to be right about $60,000 is all. And the $60,000 that we're putting up is some matching funds for the 2 sidewalk areas. And we're really getting about 400% return on our investment with that $60,000. So, you know, that's well spent money. And the money that we're using is for streets and sidewalks. But we're doing so much more with it than we could have done on our own. These searches are not going to quit.
Including the tie-in from White Street to the walking trails, which should start either the end of this week or next week.
Yes, it is. And we're not, you know, we're going to continue applying for these grants. One of them, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask a question concerning streets. Do we have a way to remark some of our center lines?
We do, and in fact, we talked about that this week. You're gonna be in contact with either county or state. When they come in to stripe, I think we can piggyback on them to do striping for us.
They have to come back, and I know the job has already been initiated by the state to get 170 restriped because of the widening they did in the curves. So we know they're coming for that. We're going to try to piggyback off of that to get McKnight and some of the other streets that we restriped.
We thought we had 170 paved from 49 to the bridge. And then on Highway 23, they had the landslide. So a lot of that money was diverted during that time. Of course, we got our 2 corners fixed, and that was kind of really improvement on there. And we got that little strip up there by Parks. That was the first one. We're hoping they're going to come back and do that, but it's just, they're going to be in the next year's budget. They'll make those determinations in January, so we don't know.
And those things are certainly, especially the White Street connection to Campbell Loop. I mean, Campbell Loop is a designated route, and that's probably where the bike traffic is going to come from Greenwood. So with us being able to go and say, you know, we've got that tie already in plan, we've got the grant issue for that. That's going to tie it to Riverside Park. Now, the next step is how do they get across the river? So you can't do it on the current 170 bridge. You just can't. You know, we have school kids walking across it, pushing their bikes because they're scared now. So that's something else that we're certainly going to bring up in the walking meeting is that, you know, here's things that we're doing. We just need help with this final piece of it.
And that wasn't a diversion away from Louis Bridge, because that is a big part of But the other things that I brought up, all of those resources that we used for the grants that we've got approved so far, with the exception of the $250,000 TAP grant for street overlay, that money is designated every year, and that's what it's for. It's to help small towns improve their streets. So we can go back to them for money in the future, even to do some of our graveled streets, to do new street improvements on those. But it's always going to be tied to city streets. But the rest, but TAP also comes from the Arkansas Highway Transportation Department, and those monies will continue to be available every year. So we will continue to go after some of those funds. And there's others out there. Besides those, there's other opportunities. We want this to be as small a burden on our community and as good an asset as we can get it done, if it goes through and if we get the bridge fixed. Questions? We put some big information out tonight. Is there anyone here that would like to ask any questions or make any comments?
Is this just for the quorum, or for the council here? Or can I?
Yeah, I'm open, yeah, Jack, I'm opening it up. If any of you guys would like to ask any questions or anything,
Yeah.
I'm gonna open up the time right now for you to do that.
I promised my wife I would not say anything. However,
But we won't tell her.
she's not here.
It's on video.
I'm Jack Cunningham, and I live outside the city limits. I'm in the planning area though. And this thing with the bridge at Woolsey, if it's my understanding, the city wants it here, or somebody wants it here. And is this part of the walking trails? And you said it create revenue, it bring in revenue. How is that?
Okay. Well, it's two things, Jack. One, yes, it is a major connection between Highway 71 and the east side of West Fork and the west side of West Fork, across the river to the park. And it is a connection for the existing trail that is designated on 71. The plan has Campbell Loop as a bike and pedestrian path from South Fayetteville coming through Greenland. And then a third path, which may never come to fruition, is some kind of a path along the river. So yes, it is part of that. It's also, though, under what the Arkansas Highway Department calls safe routes. And the safe route, it began as safe route to schools, but they really kind of expanded that to safe routes in the city. So we're talking about safe routes to businesses, safe routes to post offices, community centers, and churches, and all those kinds of things that are on bike and pedestrian paths, sidewalk systems, soft paths, natural paths. So it's part of that whole system.
Okay, we'll get back to the bridge. Is there a timeline when this bridge will be taken out to where the new bridge can be worked on?
Yes.
What is?
What we know is that the bids will be let in March, which means they will say, okay, we choose this construction company for this job. The construction companies already have the information for what the highway wants on it. So when those bids are let out, when that bid is let out, which is in March, then that process starts. Right now, Jack, we don't know the timeline for a construction company to bring their equipment in and arrange their work and all that. You know, we may have another month, we may have 60 days time period in there before anything physically has to happen. So, yes, we know when the money becomes available to the construction company. We don't really know when the bridge actually has to be moved, but it's going to be sometime March and after. That's the best I can give you right now.
Well, there's
and
three.
we can't get that we haven't been able to get that information from the highway department. I mean,
They said 60 to 90 days after the confirmation of the contract with the construction company that's going to build the new bridge that's replacing the Woolsey Bridge. And
so we're to April or May.
Right.
Well, there's three people or three organizations involved here: the state, the city, and the county.
Okay, the county
That
will
is
be
the
out
county
there.
bridge, and the county is the one that's paying the state. I went to Quorum Court about this, along with some other people.
Okay.
They approved the money to build the new bridge down here at Woolsey.
Yes.
However, there's a holdup because of the Woolsey Bridge. They're not letting out the bids yet. There's a holdup. I think the bids have been let out if the city wasn't concerned about the old bridge. And I don't see how it's gonna bring in revenue.
Well, the revenue side comes from people who will come down here for a couple reasons. One, in the beginning, there's going to be a novelty of having that historic bridge here. People will come and see it. They'll spend time at Riverside Park. Hopefully, they'll eat in restaurants.
And you're gonna have a toll so they can walk across it?
No.
Well, that's the revenue.
Well, but the revenue comes in when people spend money anywhere in your town. If there's a reason for people to come in town that is not currently available, those additional people who come in, if they spend money, then that's additional revenue that comes to us. And the nice thing is it's sales tax revenue that doesn't come from our own people. The other possibility is that there's a good chance that smaller businesses might find advantages to be in or near those trails. So an example might be a small bicycle shop and coffee shop.
This is all hypothetical.
Well, it is, but it's based on what's happened in these kinds of situations all over the country. Alter Greenway, which is the parent organization that has helped with these trail systems all over the United States, and that Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning has hired to help with the design of our trails, has found this to be true in every community that they design trails. That the trails bring business.
The only thing that I can see and understand why you want to save that bridge and bring it up here is just like the photos behind you, the paintings behind you, it's history. And trying to get this bridge is a holdup for the county people using that when they get the new bridge. You can't get a new bridge till the old one's gone. And on the timeline, I'll bet you a year from now, they will have started on that new bridge. And that bridge's been shut down for a while.
Got one more big old party here that y'all aren't talking about. They don't let you just destroy old bridges. That's the whole reason we do it. If it were up to HTV in Washington County, they'd have crushed that thing in the metal, big metal ball a long time ago.
What it's referring to is the Arkansas State Historic Preservation Office, what everybody refers to as SHPO. So because it's a National Historic Bridge, they have made sure that there was opportunity for that bridge to be kept somewhat. There were three, from what we know, there were three interested parties. Fayetteville, us, and I think even someone from the Woolsey area community sent a letter in showing interest in keeping that bridge. And we haven't seen those documents, but in the conversations that we've had, there were three entities interested in the bridge. Probably the party at Woolsey was not a serious one. Where would they go with it, and how would they get it there? But Fayetteville was serious about it, and we were.
Because Fayetteville took Wyman Bridge, but they cut it into sections and put it in their walking trails.
Yes, they did. And when they did that, they, of course, Fayetteville is pretty well funded for what they're doing and has had a lot of help with Walton family. But when they did that, they did lose resources through historic preservation. When they did that. We won't. When we move ours, it's going to go back across the river, which was its original intent. So the funding that is available for a historic bridge stays, some of that funding will still be available. And that's one of the things that we're looking for. But I don't know, Jack, I don't know how we as West Fork have delayed the process of that, because we've only reacted to what has been offered to anybody in the area, and would have been offered regardless of whether we asked for it or somebody else asked for it. That that process still stayed intact and would have up to some point in time, and I don't know when that would have been, but we haven't, West Fork hasn't delayed that process because we showed interest. If the process was delayed, it's because it was offered through the Arkansas State Historic Preservation Department to try to keep that bridge usable and intact someplace. James, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to add, on the very front end of this whole discussion of the initial communication in the paper about the bridge becoming available, we communicated with Eric Gilliland in the Arkansas Highway Transportation Preservation Department, what is the timeline? And that was before we had even sent our letter, and I have his email saying the bridge, reconstruction of the new bridge is due to be let in March of 2016. And that's still what they're adhering to. They're going to let the bids for the new bridge construction in March of 2016. So I don't know how anybody's delayed that. That's what their original timeline is on the very front of this.
Well, if you all do all this study and you don't have figures yet, they're still coming in, you don't have the money yet, then if it gets to a point to where you say, no, it's going to be too costly, and you back out, then what?
They'll scrap it, I guess.
I thought you said it couldn't be scrapped.
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, look,
See,
it's a good question, but here's the deal. The State Historic Preservation Office, they have an interest in enforcing state and federal law with regard to items that are on the National Register of Historic Places. This bridge is on that register. So you don't get to just pick it up and crush it if you want to. That office, the Arkansas State Historic Preservation Office, is a state office. The governor appoints the chair. But they also have, and I know this because I ran into them trying to erect a cell tower, they have a connection to the federal, to historic places, preservation people. And that's why they have cited all kinds of federal law in this MOA. And I don't know what would happen if they couldn't get a taker. They might delay it another year while they try to figure out a place where they can just pick it up and put it. I don't know the answer to that. I know that the highway department would probably just as soon cut it into little pieces as would Washington County. But I think it is that SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, that keeps all that from happening, and they have that kind of power to do that. But in fact, you just mentioned they have an office at the highway department that is their sort of connection to the highway department. This happens all over the state. So I'm not sure that West Fork would even be a part of it. It may still be. If West Fork wasn't part of it, they may still be looking for a place for that bridge to go. I don't know that, but my guess is, reading this, they say it's on the National Register, and they say they determined that removing it will have an adverse effect on the property, and then they cite 2 or 3 federal laws that keep that from happening. So,
if they removed it, it would have an improvement on that property now.
I mean, the property they mean is the historic property. They mean the historic bridge.
The bridge.
Yeah, itself. The bridge is a 1925 bridge. I don't know when it got on that historic register. And I don't want to argue with you about the merits. Unless General Lee's ghost is walking up and down that bridge every night, I don't know why you have to have, a metal bridge on National Historic Register. But it is. Someone decided it's a really good idea. Someone literally applied for that.
Yeah, I understand that.
You'd find that guy. But that's where we are. Once it gets on that list, there's an entire state agency that's its business is preserved and protected. That's kind of where we are. West Fork
Well,
actually
I'll be
making
back
this go
next month.
faster.
I think I'll go back to Court and get their input on it. Because that bridge has been shut down. Before it was ever shut down, I mean, before they blocked completely away, you couldn't use it anyway because the bridge is deteriorating. And there's gonna have to be a lot of maintenance after it's taken down and moved up here or wherever. What, Bill?
As I remember, when this bridge thing first started rolling, I was talking to Ann Hardison about it, and her statement to me was that the county wanted to build the bridge, but the state, since it connects to a state highway, that the state has to do the job, and the county will wind up paying for it.
I understand that, Bill, I was there that night.
Yeah, but it's the state is the ones that's calling the rules on the thing up there, and so I think we just not got to the point yet where they decided to let the bid on it.
Well, if they haven't decided to let the bid, but why?
Well, if you go up there,
Yes.
if you go up there, ask them how West Fork's holding up.
No, that's my opinion. Foreign court didn't say that, but that's my opinion. That something is stopping them.
I don't see that.
Okay. Well, I've had my say, and y'all keep your mouth shut so my wife won't know.
I got it on video, right?
I'm telling her.
Thank you, Jack.
Let me ask a question. I don't want to get in, because if we're going to have a big public discussion, which is the best idea anyway, will probably always come up, but this idea might come up. What if the bridge doesn't work out for us? We do need a pedestrian crossing, because it's, and if all this thing didn't happen, let's say with the bridge, the state could possibly be interested in helping with, I've heard of attachments to that bridge, or possibly a smaller operation or something. Do we need to kind of be looking at other alternatives in case?
Actually, this whole process started with us looking at trying to put a walking bridge in proximity of the dam that would allow pedestrian and bike traffic. And we went to McClellan, and they drove up plans, and we took it to a couple engineering groups in Fayetteville, and it came out to be a $1.2 million project to build a bridge. So that would have been all on the community of West Fork to do that. So we backed off on it at that point. It was about 3 days later, the article came out in the paper about the Woolsey Bridge. And the only reason we have these foundations and these historical agencies and these other people looking at investing in this project is because it's a nationally registered historic bridge that we're now working with. So that's kind of our contribution to the project. We have the bridge awarded to us by the state. The bridge can be ours, and we want to, get the help from these other foundations simply because of the interest in preserving that historic structure. So yes, I have the plans to build a walking bridge similar to the one at Devil's Den. The same construction company that did the walking bridge at Devil's Den bid on the walking bridge, and we came in here and showed them that picture. Here's what we used to have. Why can't we have it now? And it was a $1.2 million project to do that. So we had abandoned it at that point, and the Woolsey Bridge kind of breathed life back into that aspiration to put a walking bridge across the river.
Now, if I understand you correctly, you said the state awarded the city that bridge?
The state, so since it was a nationally registered structure, they requested organizations, municipal organizations, to ask for the bridge. We asked for the bridge, and they awarded it to us.
They awarded it to West Fork.
Awarded it to West Fork.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to make any comments or ask any questions? Council? We done? Anybody got a motion?
I make a motion.
Okay, all in favor, stand up.
It is a big idea.
All right, Chief, I'm gonna keep what you word on.
Everybody have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I did.
You good?
Happy and safe holidays.
certified on the bike.
Oh, Lord.